What's up? This is Andy. Welcome to Twin Flame Gang Series, and today we're going to talk about when you start to dislike your twin. And there's a lot of different so the different levels you're in you're gonna feel different ways about your twin. And there's gonna be times when you think that you don't like your twin anymore, but that's not true because they'll do one thing and then you spiral out. So that's actually not true. But I'm gonna go through the kind of explain the different when you kind of dislike them and when it's actually your ego disliking them and different stuff like that. So here we go. My dog is snoring so loud. Can you guys hear that? Well, she's in some other realms right now. I'm not trying to wake her up. But, okay, so obviously in the first energies, you're mad and you're hurt. And you can say you dislike them, but you know you're devastated and you would do anything to get them back, right? So, you know, everybody fools themselves right there. You're just like, fuck that dude, you know, but come on guys. Okay, so then, when you have the heart merge, and this is not in reunion, this is like some months down when you're just, you know, starting to really get into everything and really be into spirituality and all of that stuff, you will have a shift where that real needy energy goes away and you feel like, oh, I'm in inner union, and that this is what, because you're feeling good, but it's not inner union at all. And you're kind of like, I can take him or leave him. I can take him or leave him because you're feeling good. But if they do one thing, you spiral out, and that's how. And so you know that is not, you're not disliking them, and you still want them, you know. Okay, so then, as you start to come into inner union, and they are being magnetized back in, and that is you want your twin. You're trying to control the outcome, but you're trying to also surrender. This is the longest one because you're trying to balance. You're trying to surrender, but you still want to control the outcome because you haven't surrendered all the way. I mean, this is a long one, and you do want your twin, even though you're extremely frustrated. So there's a frustrated phase, but it doesn't mean you dislike them. You're frustrated because you still can't control the outcome, and because you see the higher picture and you see them being magnetized in, and you just want to be like, come on, bro, like, you know, but they are not saying anything, and you get really irritated. That's still not disliking your twin. You still want them though, even though you're irritated. So then as you keep coming into inner union, and now at this point, every time they come in, you're like this, I've gone over that, and you start to block them, and they start to go through their ego death. Now, this is funny because you go through another phase of loving them again, because you are in inner union, you have so much gratitude, and for what they did to you, and you've got this the unconditional love is real, regardless when you start to dislike them, and so you have an unconditional love, and so you're watching them make some shifts, okay, so, and you're checking them, and so you start to get, okay, so they'll start to, you know, as they get stuck in their loops with their songs, singing the songs, or going ghost, or whatever it is, stuck in their loops, and you cut it off, and then they start to, and then you let them back in, and you start to balance again. Now, and you're still gonna keep having that unconditional love, because you're gonna see some shifts, like all of a sudden they're like, I miss you, or they'll have it, you know, and so you are like, yes, and you're getting really excited, and you're starting to be excited about the future, you know, because you know they're gonna come back soon, and so you still you actually want them more then, because the universe is going to be putting like scenarios in your head and outcomes and all of these things. And, you know, when those come, you got to see them, appreciate them, and let them pass, you know, don't asphyxiate on those. But, okay, so, and you're really, really patient. You're very patient as they're doing this shit. So, you're blocking them, you know, and so each time they're leveling up. So Like, okay, so I'm gonna give an example, and so mine would, he would finally, once I had stopped responding to his surface level talk or his songs, he would then, they'll raise up. So he would then start singing a song with like a sentence, like, hey, this song made me think of you today, you know, whatever, so that I could respond or whatever. Or so they'll raise up to keep matching you, or you won't talk to them. But that is still, like, you still have hope. You're very hopeful, so you still are kind of giddy because you've seen so much happen with them, with these big leaps, you know, and then reaching out, and you are now in control, right? You're kind of like, you know, you're kind of like, whatever, bro, because you can now take them or leave them, but you still want them. It's a weird thing. So when I started to dislike mine, okay, so now, I've been checking him, catching his loops all this time, right? And now you're thinking something big's about to happen, because now when you actually start to not want them at all, so here's how that shit goes. So, okay, you are now very connected with your spirit guides. You now know the moon cycle. You now know you are an inner union. You now know, have your purpose coming in, and you know their ego death is going, and you know it's a fucking done deal. You know what I'm saying? There's no falling back now. There's no stopping them. So they're going through it, and you know that it's coming, you know, and the universe is telling you, the signs are telling you, everything is telling you, and everything's telling you they're about to crack, you know. And so so, you know, he would start coming in with giving stuff about his life and talking about, you know, his marriage breaking up, and coming in more, right? So when he would do that, I would come back and respond. He learned that if he asked me any surface level, he was not going to get a response. So they will level up. So he would start talking about stuff, you know, and then so you kind of are like, wow, it's been some days and they're going good. And then you notice they're kind of sending you music again. It's kind of, nothing's really changing. They still haven't cracked. And you know, though, you know it's coming. So this is where you have completely leveled out of toxic behaviors, and you will no longer take it from fucking anyone. And so even though you're seeing them level up and you're still seeing them, so this is where you really start to notice how strong that ego is. So I would say he would message me those things, and so I test him, right? And I'm like, are you trying to be my friend again? Because I always like, we're not fucking friends, bro. You're like, stop trying to be my friend. And crickets, he didn't say anything. And I'm like, I'm gonna give him a couple hours. If he doesn't respond, you know, and I've never ever like disrespect said anything. I've always been very silent. And so, you know, he didn't say anything. So I said, crickets, shocker, bye, you know, and then he instantly responded, which is telling me he saw it and chose to stay silent, you know. So, and you're just like, you don't even understand people's ego anymore. So you're just like, ew, you know, and so then I'm like, we're not friends. Fuck off, you know? And so I'm like, fuck off. And so he's like, fine. Okay, you know? And then the next day, this is how much the pull is that, so this is where you're seeing their ego versus the pull of their soul. And you start to be like disappointed in where they're at, because you know exactly what they're doing, and your spirit guides are telling you, you are feeling everything, and you can feel that pull. And it's, so the next day he would send me a song and pretend like nothing happened, and I wouldn't respond, right? And so then the next day he would send me some photos and a picture, and it would be, so knowing I'm not responding, telling him to fuck off, telling him we're not friends, and the pull is still so strong that he cannot resist to send me a photo or to just, and so you're like, at this point, my ego would be more embarrassed to continue to do that than to just say, okay, I have more feelings for you than we're friends. You know, you would think, man, that's more embarrassing than just to say that. And when they choose that, you're like, nah. And that's when you start to dislike them, because you're gross, you're almost, okay. That's when you start to dislike them. But here's the thing, is they're in that needy energy that you're in the beginning. And this is where you start to dislike them, because you've never seen them in this type of energy. And so they won't listen. They'll keep messaging you instead of just saying it, you know? And then on top of that, you will notice that they will start to sneaky linky shit. Make a fake Instagram. You know, they're following you in every type of way, instead of just coming out and asking you. You know, they're trying to find out stuff about you, and they think you don't know that they have a fake Instagram and they're watching you and stuff. And so that's where you're like, you get turned off. It's an actual turn off, to where you're like, ew, like, you see their neediness, and then they're unwilling, how strong. So it's just this fight between their selves, and you see it, and you're kind of like, you're so close, just do it, you know? And so you're just kind of grossed out, and that's when you start to dislike them, is when you know the deal, and you know they want to do it, and they're so close, and they let their ego choose something that is way more embarrassing. And then you're just kind of like, and you are no longer willing. So then now you kind of cut them off, and you're no longer willing to let them come in to try to balance, or to try to, now they're only allowed to talk to you if they're going to come in with a confession or something that is unlike saying what they were saying before. So they can no longer do that. And so, you know, when they can no longer do that, and they come in and they crack, you know that now their ego, it has the floodgates. And so now they're going to be starting to change back into the person you met. And so then you're like, okay, because it gets so long to where you're like, they're like the shell of the person I met, and you just don't even want to tolerate it anymore. It just becomes a thing. But it is not until the end. Like, everybody acts like, oh, I don't want it anymore. It's because you're in these other energies of irritation and stuff. It's not that. And so now, you know, I am still patient, but it's like, you are no longer I'm no longer willing to let him even balance with me, because there's no balancing I need. And now there's no stopping the ego death that he's in now. It's so far that now he's no longer allowed to talk with me unless it's going to be something real. So that's how it goes. And when it is, you unconditionally love them. And so you're going to be excited that they're going to be back to their old self. But there's a time where you're no longer willing to even let them text you. You know? Fuck them. And that's, you know what else is really cool too, is when that happens and you do start to see them in that needing energy, and you already, you know, you're already coming into inner union, so you already stop caring what people think about you. And then now that confidence, like, not that you need validation, because you already know how your twin feels, but you're just like, you're like, they think of you as somebody way above them, that, you know, they think of you as like a goddess, that you're too good for them. So you get all that shit you felt in the beginning. Trust me, you get that back. You know, it comes, you get it all. They don't come out of this unscathed. They also go through that too. If they didn't go through that, then they would never fear losing you. You know what I mean? Like, that would never happen. They go through it too. Horribly, you know, because they're all doing it within. We'll talk about, look it up, you know, that they're fighting it within. And when you watch it happening, you're just like, "Ugh," you know, so that's what happens. But you still love them and all that shit. All right. Say la vie.